Hi everyone, Leon here. Welcome back to my channel, the channel that inspires learning. Now, today I'll be sharing with you on this book called The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. So, what can a checklist help us with? For some of us, we may think that checklists are for amateurs. We are professionals, we are experienced, and we don't need a checklist. I used to think of it that way too. But after reading this book, I found out that there are actually a lot of professionals and highly professionals in highly precision occupations. They're using checklists and they're using it to lower the rate of making errors, to increase productivity, as well as raising the morale of team and also help companies increase their revenue. Amazing, isn't it? But wait, making a checklist seems easy, isn't it? Why does it require a doctor? By the way, the author, Atul Gawande, is a doctor, to write this book. Now, this was what interests me in the first place. In this book, he gave us a lot of real-life examples on where the checklists are being implemented in operations, in highly specialized professions, and where these checklists are implemented and when they are implemented. The book started with a man being stabbed at a Halloween party. Now, he was rushed to the hospital, and the medical team who took care of him determined that the wound doesn't look bad or serious, probably just a few stitches will do. Then while they were preparing for the stitches to be done, a nurse noticed that this man has suddenly stopped babbling. His eyes were rolling back and his heart rate skyrocketed. Then she was in a panic and called the rest of the medical team to attention. And now this situation became an emergency, and all medical team were paying attention to him. It was then discovered that the wound, though it doesn't look serious, it's just like a very short wound, it was very deep into his body. And it turned out that he was stabbed by a bayonet at the Halloween party. And who would have known that people are carrying bayonets around in San Francisco, right? So this case gave the medical team a lesson. The medical team did everything they could for the man, except that nobody asked what had caused the wound. You see, this was a minor oversight in the whole process. But because of this minor oversight, a life was nearly lost. And minor details like this can be left out very easily in such kind of scenarios. If there's nobody or anything to double check against one another. Fortunately, the man was saved. This is just one of the many incidents happening around the world, and it's getting more and more common in the medical field, according to the author. The author also informs that the WHO, World Health Organization, classification of diseases has reached more than 13,000 ways that our bodies can fail. For most, it can be healed or recovered, while others, they usually can be reduced in harm or misery that the diseases can cause. And don't forget, each condition has so many procedures and tools and equipments that are to be used to treat us. And all this includes a lot of steps. There are so many things to get right. And besides this, it will be further challenged under the extreme pressure of time that the medical team is under. Let us take a look at another medical case about this 3-year-old girl who fell into an icy pond in the Austrian Alps. She was submerged for 30 minutes before she was found. And 8 minutes later, the medical team arrived and took her to the nearest hospital. A complicated series of medical recovery was performed on her. And finally, after some time, thank God that the girl managed to survive. That's a miracle and amazing, isn't it? The author was intrigued by how a random hospital like that could have managed to do something so enormously complicated. They had to perform thousands of steps accurately and promptly, and requires all the other departments that is involved to take action promptly as well. So what he discovered later was that the hospital had such kind of incidents happening every year, and they were looking for ways to help these people who are in this incidents. And therefore they came up with a checklist that involves the steps to be done for each personnel, as well as the communication between different departments, and every department will take this as a priority when such cases was encountered. The essence was in having the checklist that works and people following it. Therefore, we can see that checklists can help solve humans' two basic problems. One is to help with our recall and attention or focus. No matter how experienced a person is, under complex procedures and pressure, our focus and attention and recall may be affected. And second, it helps to keep us in check that certain steps or procedures are not missed or skipped. Because some professionals think that certain steps are not necessary, and even though they can remember it, they skipped it intentionally. Nothing big has ever happened before when I skip this, until it does. However, a lot of professionals dislike and were offended by the idea of using a checklist. They feel that their professionalism is being undermined and is so troublesome to use. I'd like to share with you an example in the book on this Johns Hopkins Hospital. A doctor named Peter Pronovost decided to try out a simple checklist at the ICU. In this particular task of putting central line into the patients. Now the checklist consists of 5 simple steps. Doctors are supposed to wash their hands with soap, clean the patient's skins with chlorhexidine antiseptic, put the sterile drapes over the entire patient, wear a mask, hat, sterile gown and gloves, and put a sterile dressing over the insertion site once the line is in. Now these 5 simple steps any doctor would have known and think that it undermines their professionalism, right? When it was being implemented, it was resisted by a lot of doctors. However, an observation was done over a month that shows in more than a third of these patients, at least one step was skipped. Therefore, in the following month, the hospital gave authority to the nurse to stop the doctors if they have skipped any of these steps and remind them to do it. So for 1 whole year, the results was astonishing. The 10-day line infection rate went from 11% to 0%, and they continued for another 15 months. Only 2 line infections occurred. They did a calculation and found that the checklist has prevented 43 infections, 8 deaths, and saved the hospital over $2 million in costs. Something important to highlight from this example is that the checklist implementation has enabled the power or authority of one to be clearly pushed out to the rest of the team. Because without the checklist and the authority granted to the nurses, they may hesitate in doing their part to remind the doctors on the missing steps. I hope this video has brought value to you. If it did, give me a thumbs up, comment below, or share it with a friend you care about, because you're not just sharing a video, you're sharing content that could make a difference in people's lives. And remember to hit the subscribe button or the notification bell to be notified of my weekly learnings from the books I've read on relationship, business, and personal development. Thank you. Do check out these other books I've reviewed. I hope they'll bring more value to you and inspire you to bring out your best potential. If you like this, hit the subscribe button and be part of the journey to inspire learning. Leon here, wishing you well and see you in the next video.